Welcome back to Brain Strength. This is a series where this average Joe tries to teach you a thing or two about sports psychology so that you can be the best version of yourself. I'm your host, RJ Lynch, of my master's in sports psychology. Let's get this thing rolling. In this episode, I'll be focused more on how the athlete perceives support, how they go out and find it, why it's important to have it in their life, instead of how to be the best supportive parent, be a better supporting teammate, and so on and so forth, as that's really its own video. So as we look at support, I think the first thing is really to call out and to understand when the support you're getting is toxic or not good for you. And support can be toxic from a number of sources. It can be toxic from your family, in the sense that if your family's putting a lot of pressure on you, if they're forcing you to do things, if they're making you work through injuries, if they're over involved and mom and dad are doing too much to try and make the coach play you, whatever it is, if they're being very critical, after a tough loss, they're driving home with you and telling you everything you did wrong, or if they're being a distraction to you or your team, that's a toxic form of support. They're being too much. Even if it comes from a good intention, if it's over the top too much and it's causing a distraction to how you perform, we have to find ways to tone it back. From friends, it can be the form of peer pressure, making you do things you don't want to do, convincing you to skip practice or go to that party when you really should be sleeping. It comes from a lack of understanding, especially in high school, and then even when you get to college. If your friend groups are not in the athletic lifestyle, if they're not in that same sport or that culture that you're in, they'll understand what you're doing, why you're sacrificing all this fun time to practice. That can cause rifts and cause issues that can demotivate an athlete, can bring you down. And then lastly, there can be the touch of jealousy. If they think that you're pulling away from them as friends, that, oh, he's getting so much better, that she's getting so much better. Now they're getting all the dates to stuff because they're the athlete. Da, da, da. If they're getting jealous or they see you winning things and they're kind of just saying back to like, they're part of the team. They're not really contributing like you are. That jealousy can just gnaw away and they start throwing those comments out that can just bring you down from confidence to motivation, whatever it is. And then lastly, your coaches can have poor support. They can be toxic at times. If they're overtraining you, if they're pushing you too hard and getting you to the point where you're going to be hurt. If there's poor communication, they are not able to communicate with you and talk with you when you're having bad days and good days. That can be toxic. If they play games of favoritism, where you have to do everything right to get their attention, that's not being supportive of you as an athlete, of you in your growth pursuit. They're just playing favorites of, okay, this person's going to get me what I need, so I'm going to use them and play with how I support them and emotionally involve with them. And then if they're just being unrealistic with things, especially when it comes to injury or star players where they think, all right, if we do this, we have this chance. I've got to tell them, like, yeah, you've got to come back from this injury in 3 weeks, even though it's supposed to take you 6 for us to have a chance. It's a toxic form of support that hurts the athlete. So then you as an athlete, if you're able to recognize, like, yeah, I know all of those people in my life right now, how do you find the support that's helpful to you? Well, first thing is to understand the different types of support and what they all look like so you can find the right people, because not everybody's going to fill the same role. Your dad might not be able to fill the same role in your life as your mother does. Your parents are not going to fill the same role that your friends do. So what does it look like to be the different types of support so you can identify those right people? So what is good support? What are you looking for as an athlete? And as someone who might be a supporter of an athlete, what are the roles that you can fill? Well, the first one is emotional support. So this is someone who the athlete is able to go to and you're able to cry to them. You're able to be sad around them. And they're there to keep you sane, to try to keep you happy, or just be that shoulder to cry on. For a lot of people, and this is a very generalized answer, this is not true for everybody, I want to make that clear. But for a lot of people, this tends to be the difference between maybe a mother or father in a situation. Sometimes men are not nearly as in tune to emotions as a female might be. So maybe your father's not someone you go to emotionally support you, but your mother she'll just listen. She'll let you cry there. She'll let you be vulnerable. And that's the person you go to for emotional support. But then maybe your father might fill another role. And of course, it can be vice versa, but just as an example. The next type of support is educational support. This is very good for when you're hurt or going through struggles and you know somebody that has some kind of expertise in a field. So if you get injured, an educational support might be your doctors, your ATs, people that can teach you about your injury and support you through it. In sport that's not injury, you might look at educational support as assistant coaches or coaches, trainers, somebody that has an expertise in whatever you're struggling with right now that can support you through it, that can help you and teach you about what you need to do better. The next type of support is instrumental. It's the doing things for you. It's the person who's going to drive you around town when you're hurt. It's the person that's going to do this or that for you to take some of the burden off your shoulders so that you're able to perform, that you're able to be your best. The person that helps cook for you when you've had extremely stressful long practice days. The next up is your tangible support. Tangible and instrumental can be very similar in a lot of sense, whereas instrumental is more the doing things for you. The tangible instance would be instead of cooking the meal or doing this or that, where they actually provide like, here's your McDonald's, here's your Culver's for that, here's your Chick-fil-A, here's that meal quickly so you can have it. You don't have any food in your fridge, let's drop it off. Don't have your spikes, don't have your equipment, let's go get that for you. That's the type of tangible support. So it's an actual physical thing they're getting you. So people that are willing to buy things, give you financial assistance so you have something you need is a form of tangible support. And then lastly, you have esteem support. So a lot of times, one of the reasons we need social support is we get down on ourselves. We start thinking, I suck, I'm no good, things are terrible, woe is me. Your esteem support is someone who knows you well, that can pull up examples is like, wait a second, you're saying you suck? Don't you remember this moment where you were like, boom, like awesome and great? Come on, man, come on, let's get this straight. They're the person that's there to boost you up, that's able to be the best cheerleader, that's like, let's go do this, yeah. That'd be very much an example of esteem support. Now, with all of those different supports, one person can fill multiple roles, but it's really helpful when you have different people for each spot. Because one of the things that happens is if we rely too much on one person to support us, or too few people to support us, those people get burned out and eventually they get to the spot where it's like, can you please leave me alone? I get it, you need me, but I need time for me. Having a bunch of different people that can fill those roles can be very important to keep you supported. So what are a few benefits of having good social support and good things around you? Well, the first thing is motivation and encouragement. So a lot of times we get demotivated, we lose confidence when we go spiraling down these holes and we don't see any way out. What social support does is it throws you that ladder and either helps bring you up or they climb down there to sit with you and just be empathetic with like, yep, things suck right now, but I'm going to sit with you as long as you need me to. And by just having that second person there, it attaches us a little bit more to the light, to the fact that there is an end to whatever we've got going on in life. Next up, social support can create positive influences. So when we have people around us, they're doing good things for us, they're showing us the way to act, to be better, it helps us learn of like, oh yeah, that's how I can be better. That's how I can be a better version of me. Can relieve stress. Anyone who's been in college or lived on their own for a little bit knows it can really suck having long hours of work, long hours of practice. And all of a sudden you've got to come home, cook a meal for yourself, clean up all your dishes, do all this other stuff that you need to do to live. It's something you have to do. But when you've had a very stressful day, it's this additional stress on your life. And if your social support can just ease a little bit of that, it allows you to function and be a lot better overall. Next up, social support helps educate you. So if you don't know something, if you don't know the answer of how to be somewhere, be better, what it's going to look like to heal from an injury, the social support can help you get there, help you understand, like, here's your timetable, this is how we're going to get there, and you're going to be fine. And then lastly, if your social support is coming from within a team, from your teammates, from your friends on a team, it just builds that cohesion of like, I'm here for you, You're here for me, and we're going to get better together. So, as a mental performance consultant, what would I do for the athletes or take them through to help build better social support, to help clarify things and make life easier? The first thing we do is create what we like to call a board of advisors. So on this board, you select 5 to 10 people, whatever it is, of your closest people. In this board are going to be the different forms of social support. It's going to be people that understand your goals, your dreams, and how to get there. Maybe it's a couple mentors or people that have come before you that you really look up to, that know what your journey looks like. And you build this board of trusted people that are going to help you stay on the path to being the best version of you. And in that, we also eliminate the people that are not going to be there. So maybe you have a friend that they're a great person to cry to. They're a great person that you can be vulnerable to. But deep down, it's like, yeah, but they're always trying to take me out to the bars. They're always trying to take me out to this or that. They're trying to get me to go to parties, and I just can't do that. That's not what my dream is. So when we're creating the board, one of the things we do is like, well, maybe this person isn't part of your boards, but they're to the side. They're extra help. They're someone that you can go to cry to, but when you need to make decisions about your career, when you need advice on where to go with things, that's not the person you go to. They're kind of kept at a close distance, but a little distance away compared to your board members. The next thing we do is we create communication plans. So if you have people in your life that are toxic support, we would talk about how do we have conversations with them to transform that or to eventually cut them out. So if it's a parent that has very good intentions with their support, but is very over the top, very over involved, we would talk about how do we get them to reduce that while still respecting the fact that, like, I see this comes from a good place, but we need to tone it back. And then lastly, I like to have athletes write to your support. So I mentioned that when we start leaning on people a lot, it can be very taxing. Most of the time, if we have good friends, good support, they're willing to accept that taxing because that's what friends do. We accept the fact that we ease each other's burdens. We share in distress. We share in the fact that when you're having a bad day, I'm there for you. And when I'm having a bad day, you're there for me. But still, one of the things that I think is great for athletes is write to your support. If you ever feel like, I feel like I'm a burden, I'm always on top of them, I'm always going for them to help, it's a lot. One of the best things to do then is thank them. Just write an actual letter to the people that support you and say, thank you for all you do. And 2 things usually happen from that. The person that supports you is like, aw, appreciate that, man, appreciate that. And then second, they're usually along the lines of, but this isn't needed. This is what friends are for. This is what we do it. And if you get those 2 responses, those are usually great people in your life, great supporters. At the very least, if you're at least able to get the, appreciate that at least eases the mind that I'm at least thanking them for what they do for me and create a little gratitude in your own heart that's good for you. Now, while this part's not a big part of our topic today, I think it's a video all its own, I do want to talk about how to be the best support. Because for some athletes out there, you're going to be support for your teammates. You're going to be supportive for your other friends. And I think it does have a place to understand, like, how do you be the support that you want to have one day? The first thing, learn to actively listen. When you talk to people, do less talking, listen more, pay attention. Next up, create a positive environment. If you're looking to be a positive support for someone, when you're talking to them in individual conversations, don't talk about how much you hate listening to so-and-so. Don't talk about how you hate being the support system for someone else. Because what they're going to hear is like, oh, they hate being supportive of this person, so they probably wouldn't want to be my support. Even if you're talking about it because the person that's trying to use you as support is just a horrible human being, it still sends the message to that person if they don't know the full situation of like, oh, so this person doesn't like being a support system. Got it. The next thing to do is encourage balance, whether you're a parent, whether you're a teammate, whether you're a coach. To be the best support, make sure that you're teaching them how to balance the idea of being an athlete, but also being a human being. Care about them as a whole so that they understand that they're not just the athlete to you. You don't just care about them because they're an athlete, you care about them because they're a person worthy of love and care. After we encourage balance, what we do next is we avoid excess pressure. We watch what we say, we are mindful of the words we use and the things we say so that we don't put extra pressure on athletes. We don't put extra pressure on the people around us. Because what happens a lot is we'll just say little comments, things that are meant to be tossed aside remarks. All of a sudden, an athlete or person around us might interpret as, oh, so we have to go do this. Got it. Okay. And it just puts more pressure on them, and it can be the littlest things. So just be mindful of the words we use so that we don't put more pressure on people. And that's pretty much what I have for today. So if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, leave a comment on this video or reach out to us at our website or give us a call. And until next time, if there's anything today that you found offensive, I hope you can forgive me. And know if there's anything in the comments that you say that I find offensive, no, I'll forgive you. Brain Strength, out.